when it comes to confidence, when you first get that first timetable, even though it's a long time ago, it still sticks in my mind. I didn't know what a Punnett square was 30 odd years ago. I do now, fortunately. But for me, that's a two-way thing, because not only do the students deserve teachers who know what they're talking about, but in terms of our own confidence and building our self-esteem and our professional identity, I think that subject knowledge is really important. So my advice would really be twofold. One is, yes, it's tricky. You won't know everything in the secondary curriculum. Were plenty of times I was a page ahead of the students in the textbook. But what I did try to do was learn stories. I read a lot of popular science, especially outside of physics. So I read a lot of biology, I read a lot of chemistry. And what I'd say, and these didn't exist in the early years of my teaching career, but I now think that the series of books, the very short introductions from Oxford, I've even got one with me today at work, I think they're just brilliant. There's a really good one I read recently on the history of chemistry. And it's fabulous. And I read another one quite recently on Darwin. But this equips you with stories. And those are the things, quite honestly, I remember from being at school myself with the stories. Honestly, do I remember an enormous amount about a lot of the details of the science I was taught? No, I'd be lying to you if I said I did. But I can tell you what, I can remember stories told me 40 odd years ago. So that would be my tip, Imogen. Try to get on top of the subject knowledge if you can, but think about some human stories.
To build on what Mark said, between now and September, I find one of the most useful things that I do, and I'm quite lucky that I taught the same year group 3 years in a row, so I just built on my subject knowledge each time, but was to go through what was happening in the year, topic-wise, and kind of making a mind map for each topic, things that I know or things that I need to know, because I think subject knowledge is so important, especially when primary school kids just ask you the most off-the-wall questions. If you have the answer, they absolutely love it. And I was in a fortunate and unfortunate position that in year 4, our curriculum for history was just a bit random. So I had British Empire and then I had the Georgians, which there's very little online that's catered to year 4. But I found it difficult at first, but then I was quite happy because it meant that I did a lot of research and I was able to tailor it to my classes. But for each topic through the year, I'd make a mind map and I'd think about what enrichment could we do? Could we fit a trip in? And if so, how far ahead could I book that trip? And like Mark said about stories, one thing I'd always come up with for each topic is one really random fact that the kids will remember. Usually it's something a bit gross, like how the Georgians used to eat so much that they'd have a room to go and be sick in so they could continue eating. But that's something that they always remember. And I've had kids that are going out of year 6 coming back to me, and when they do their assembly and it's, what do you remember from learning in year 4? That's what they remember. And then it unlocks their learning for like the rest of the curriculum. So like Mark said, so things that they'll remember, but if your subject knowledge feels weak in an area, take time to learn about it. There's so much online or like loads of books that you can find to like just build up your knowledge.
Can I build on that? Sorry, Kate.
Sorry. All right, then you go.
Thank you. Wonderwall worked really well as well, so that the children always have post-its on their table, and then if they want to ask those questions that you just don't know the answer to, always tell the children you don't know everything, because that's true. You're a person, you're a real person, and then they would write it down on their post-it, and then they put it on the wall as they left. And then I would be able to Google, and then their answer was there for them when they came back in. And they could refer to that. And that was something that inspectors loved. They really liked that I did go a little bit extra about it, but also I was engaging with those children as well.
Absolutely. I was just going to add as well to what you said there, learning about metacognition and how children think and learn. I'm not sure, actually, honestly, how much of that you learn in teacher training. I can't remember from when it was my turn, but I think understanding a bit more about cognitive load, and that will help you to when you come to planning lessons. And it's difficult if you don't know what year group you're going to be in yet or whatever. So I think understanding more about how they learn would really help you if you've got this time. And then I just noticed in the chat somebody put something about saying no, and I think that's really vital. You know, it's fine to say no to something. Don't feel like you have to agree to do everything that people ask you that you might want to do, because you know you don't want to bog yourself down in this time either. It's absolutely fine to say no sometimes.
Thank you. I think I'd add on to that as well. It's okay to ask colleagues for support in areas that you don't know. You know, I had a chemist specialist in the lab next to me, and I used to regularly go into his lab to ask about things before teaching them. And thank you, Carole and Mark. The Horrible Science books are brilliant for those stories. I've really enjoyed them. And finding where there are resources is a really useful thing to do. You don't necessarily need to have watched them all, I'd say, before September, but just knowing where to look for them as you get your timetable finalised can be really helpful.